In 2004, the average time a person spent on a single task before switching was 2.5 minutes. By 2012, it had dropped to 75 seconds. By 2020, it was 47 seconds. Your attention span did not shrink because you became lazier or less disciplined. It shrank because the environment you live in changed, and your brain adapted to it exactly the way evolution designed it to. This is not a story about willpower. It is the story of an ancient operating system running in a world it was never built for. And the science of what is happening to your ability to focus is more alarming and more specific than most people realize. Let's start with what attention actually is, because most people misunderstand it. Attention is not a single thing. Neuroscientist Michael Posner at the University of Oregon, one of the founders of modern attention research, identified 3 separate attention networks in the brain. The first is the alerting network, which controls your general readiness to respond to incoming information. The second is the orienting network, which directs your focus towards specific stimuli. The third is the executive attention network, which manages sustained focus on a task while filtering out distractions. These 3 systems work together, but they are not equally strong. The alerting and orienting networks are fast and automatic. They evolved to detect change, novelty, and potential threats in the environment. A rustle in the grass, a flash of movement, a sudden sound. These systems fire before you decide to pay attention. They are the reason your head turns when someone drops a glass across the room, even when you are in the middle of a conversation. They are survival hardware. The executive attention network, the one responsible for sustained focus, is different. It is slow, effortful, and metabolically expensive. It requires the prefrontal cortex, the brain's most energy-hungry region, to actively suppress competing signals while maintaining focus on the chosen task. This is what you are using when you read a long document, write an email without checking your phone, or listen to someone speak for more than 2 minutes without your mind wandering. And here is the critical design problem. The fast systems and the slow system are in constant competition. Every notification, every pop-up, every movement in your peripheral vision is a signal that the alerting and orienting networks process automatically and instantly. The executive network must then spend energy overriding those signals to maintain focus. Each override costs something, and the cost accumulates. Researcher Gloria Mark at the University of California, Irvine has spent over 2 decades studying attention in real-world environments, particularly in workplaces. Her research produced the finding that opened this video. The average time on a single task before switching has dropped from 2.5 minutes to 47 seconds. But the more important finding is what happens after the switch. Mark found that when your attention is interrupted, it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to fully return to the original task, not to start working on it again. You might do that in seconds, but to reach the same depth of cognitive engagement you had before the interruption. 23 minutes to recover from a distraction that took 3 seconds to occur. This means that in a typical work environment, where interruptions arrive every few minutes, most people never reach deep focus at all. They spend the entire day in a state of continuous partial attention, skimming the surface of multiple tasks without fully engaging with any of them. The brain is not focused. It is constantly recovering from the last interruption while bracing for the next one. And the source of those interruptions has shifted dramatically. In Mark's earlier research, most interruptions came from other people. A colleague stopping by, a phone call, a meeting. These were external and relatively infrequent. In her more recent work, the majority of interruptions are self-generated. People interrupt themselves. They switch tabs. They check their phone. They open social media without a specific reason. The distraction is no longer arriving from outside. It is being generated from within. This is where the neuroscience gets uncomfortable. Researcher Daniel Levitin at McGill University has documented what happens in the brain during task switching. Each switch, even a brief one, requires the prefrontal cortex to reconfigure. It must disengage from one set of rules, load a new set, and suppress the residue of the previous task. This reconfiguration uses glucose, the brain's primary fuel, and the prefrontal cortex has a limited supply. Levitin describes the result as a neural bottleneck. The more you switch, the more glucose you burn on reconfiguration instead of on actual thinking. By mid-afternoon, the prefrontal cortex is running on fumes, and the quality of your decisions, your creativity, your ability to resist impulses, all decline measurably. You are not tired because you worked hard. You are tired because you switched too often, and each switch cost more than you realized. This is also why multitasking is a myth. Cognitive psychologist David Meyer at the University of Michigan has demonstrated through decades of research that the human brain cannot process two cognitively demanding tasks simultaneously. What feels like multitasking is actually rapid task switching, and each switch carries a performance cost of up to 40% in accuracy and speed. You are not doing two things at once. You are doing two things badly, in alternation, while paying a neurological tax on every transition. But the environmental pressure to switch has never been higher, and that is not accidental. The attention economy, a term coined by economist Herbert Simon, describes a world in which human attention is a scarce resource, and every platform, app, and notification system is competing to capture as much of it as possible. Former Google design ethicist Tristan Harris, whose work we covered in a previous video, has described this competition as a race to the bottom of the brainstem. Each platform engineers its triggers to be more compelling, more urgent, more impossible to ignore than the last. And the result is an environment in which the alerting and orienting networks, the fast, automatic, novelty-seeking systems, are stimulated continuously, while the executive network, the slow, deliberate, focus-sustaining system, is never given enough uninterrupted time to do its job. The brain is not broken. It is responding correctly to an environment that punishes sustained attention and rewards constant switching. In evolutionary terms, the brain that detected every novel stimulus in the environment survived. The brain that ignored novel stimuli to focus on a single task was eaten. Your attention system is doing exactly what it was built to do. The problem is that the stimuli are no longer predators and opportunities. They are pings, badges, and infinite feeds, engineered by people who understand your alerting network better than you do. Researcher Adrian Ward at the University of Texas at Austin found that the mere presence of a smartphone, even face down and silenced, reduces available cognitive capacity. The brain allocates attention to monitoring the device, the same way it would monitor any unpredictable element in the environment. This is not a conscious choice. It is automatic, and it measurably reduces performance on tasks requiring sustained focus. This connects directly to the bandwidth tax described in our earlier video on poverty and the brain. Every source of background monitoring, whether it is financial stress, a buzzing phone, or an open browser tab, occupies working memory and reduces the resources available for the task at hand. Focus is not a character trait. It is a resource, and the modern environment is draining it continuously. So what does the science say actually works? The research points consistently toward the same principle that emerged in our video on saving. Do not fight the brain. Change the environment. Researcher Cal Newport at Georgetown University, drawing on the attention science described in this video, advocates for a practice he calls deep work, extended periods of uninterrupted focus with all sources of distraction physically removed. Not silenced, not minimized. Removed, phone in another room, notifications off, browser tabs closed, door shut. The executive attention network needs uninterrupted time to reach full depth, and every potential interruption, even one you successfully resist, costs glucose and degrades performance. Gloria Mark's research supports a specific structure: 90-minute focus blocks, aligned with the brain's natural ultradian rhythm, the roughly 90-minute cycles of alertness and rest that govern cognitive performance throughout the day. After 90 minutes, the prefrontal cortex needs genuine rest, not a switch to a different task, but actual disengagement. The 47 seconds is not a diagnosis of a broken brain. It is a measurement of a brain operating correctly in an environment designed to fragment its attention. The attention span did not shrink. The number of things competing for it exploded. You are not less focused than your grandparents were. You are more competed for. And the difference between those two things is the difference between blaming yourself and redesigning the room. The brain was built to notice everything. That kept you alive. The question now is whether you will build an environment that lets it focus on one thing. Because the brain will not do it on its own. It was never designed to. There is one more finding that deserves attention because it reveals something the productivity industry almost never mentions. Psychologist Helen Immordino-Yang at the University of Southern California has studied what happens in the brain during periods of unfocused rest, what most people call daydreaming or spacing out. Her research found that these periods are not wasted time. They activate the brain's default mode network, a system that is responsible for consolidating memories, processing emotional experiences, making meaning from past events, and generating creative insight. The default mode network does its most important work when the executive attention network is offline. This means that the constant stimulation of the modern environment is not just fragmenting your focus. It is eliminating the downtime your brain needs to do its deeper work. The moments that feel unproductive, staring out a window, sitting in silence, letting your mind wander, are the moments when the brain integrates what it has learned, connects disparate ideas, and produces the kind of insight that focused attention alone cannot generate. The productivity culture that tells you to fill every moment with input is not just unrealistic, it is neurologically destructive. The brain needs oscillation, periods of deep focus followed by genuine rest, not more stimulation. And the environment that most people inhabit offers neither. In 2004, you could focus for 2.5 minutes. Now it is 47 seconds. The brain did not change. The world around it did. And every year, the gap between what your attention system was built for and what it is asked to do grows wider. You are not losing focus. You are being pulled from it by 1,000 engineered signals every hour of every day. The brain that cannot concentrate is not failing. It is responding to an environment that never stops asking it to switch. The solution is not to try harder. It is to build a room where trying is not required, because the competition for your attention has been removed before it begins. 47 seconds. That is where we are. The question is not how to focus longer. The question is what you are willing to remove to make it possible.